Hello and welcome to another episode of Sunday Sweet Chats. My name is Charles K. Carter and I'm your host for today. I'm a queer poet from Iowa and currently lives in Oregon. I'm the author of several poetry collections, including The God of Loneliness from Rebel Satori Press. But that's enough about me. Let's talk about some sweet, sweet poetry with our sweet guest today. Hello, Lee. I'm so excited to have you here today. Would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes, thanks so much for having me, Charles. My name is Leanne Roripaugh, although I'm currently publishing and going under Lee Horikoshi Roripaugh. I'm a poet, essayist, and fiction writer. My most recent poetry book is Tsunami versus the Fukushima 50, and I have a collection of short stories out called Revealed Codes, also most recently. I am a professor emerita from the University of South Dakota, where I taught for 24 years. And I currently teach at the Low-Res MFA program at Carlow University in Pittsburgh and Dublin, and the University of Nebraska Low-Res MFA program. I currently split my time between Atlanta, Georgia, where I'm currently zooming in from today, and Laramie, Wyoming.
Exciting. Again, I'm so excited to have you. Tsunami versus the Fukushima 50 is one of my favorite recent reads, so it's a beautiful
Thank
collection.
you.
People
Thank you.
really highly recommend going out and reading that one. All right. Just kind of our fun since Sunday sweet chats. We always ask people what's a favorite sweet treat of yours when you're having a sweet craving?
I think my favorite sweet treat is matcha ice cream, but I have a soft spot for matcha anything, matcha brownies, matcha Twix, matcha Pocky, but my favorite is matcha ice cream.
That's great. Can't go wrong with ice cream,
All
really.
right.
Especially this time of year.
Oh, I know. It's so hot. Ice cream's amazing.
All right. It's enough about sweet food. Let's get into some sweet poetry. Have a poem to read for us today?
Yes, I do. This is a poem that kind of falls in that in-between space between lyric flash essay and prose poem. And it's from my current manuscript called Kaze no Denwa. This is called Notes on Dissociation. The summer comes unbuttoned, and your mind slips free of its body to float up and nudge the corner of the ceiling like a mylar balloon. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. Sulky with poison rain, you're a swollen cloud casting shadows over the plains. What would happen if you were to pour yourself out onto that ground until everything darkened, until everything was all shadow? Your body dreams of invisibility, like January blackout fog, muffling the headlamps of your car on I-29 as the river exhales its thick clouds of icy breath. Your body dreams of camouflage, an effervescent fizz into gray television static. The summer comes unbuttoned. The pandemic surges and wanes, children killed in mass shootings, unarmed Black bodies martyred by the gunfire of police officers in state-sanctioned lynchings during routine traffic stops. The bodies of Asian women murdered, the bodies of Asian elders assaulted in the streets. Your Japanese mother, on lockdown in memory care 9 hours away, tells you she hates you before hanging up the phone. It doesn't particularly matter which summer's the summer that comes unbuttoned, because isn't this any summer anymore? Dissociate, as in a social severing, a breakup, a friendship's end, a professional splitting of ties. How your parents sever you off like a cancer, even though you're their only family. How they refuse to speak to you until they need your help. And because you're the only one left, you must return to parent the parents who are not good parents to you. With your feet on the air and your head on the ground, try this trick and spin it, yeah. Your head will collapse if there's nothing in it, and you'll ask yourself, where is my mind? The first time the summer comes unbuttoned, you're molested by the boy who lives across the street. He says he's doing what he's doing to you because you're half Japanese. Your parents say it's your fault he does what he does to you because you don't make him show you the gun he points at you from inside his windbreaker. How the boy isn't really a boy. He is 18. You are 8. You think about the very word trigger, how it brings to mind bullets, how it brings to mind the permeability of bodies, both physically and psychologically. You think the unbuttoning has something to do with the non-consensuality of it all, of the rapiness of the anti-maskers and the anti-vaxxers, of the rapiness of the shooters, of the rapiness of the rapists. When that panicked feeling of being trapped inside some meat sack of disaster comes, why wouldn't you want to be somewhere, anywhere else? Dissociation. For you, the flight of fight or flight. Nowhere for the body to go to feel safe. Hatch it out an escape hatch, quietly slip out of the lid, like Elizabeth Bishop's man moth who thinks the moon is a small hole at the top of the sky, proving the sky quite useless for protection. With your feet on the air and your head on the ground, try this trick and spin it, yeah. Your head will collapse if there's nothing in it, and you'll ask yourself, where is my mind? The summer comes unbuttoned, and you blow your own mind like a shotgun blast of breath to the head of a dandelion gone to seed. Each seed a tiny parachute spoked with delicate filaments arranged to create a detached vortex when the seed's borne aloft into air. The vortices ferrying the seeds up to half a mile away from the parent plant. Your body dreams of dispersal, an accident involving teleportation, and now you're a ghost in the machine. Your body dreams of evaporation, like the spider suspended in medias res, desiccating in the cloudy film of lint behind the dryer. You think of the sea slug, the sarcoglossan, also known as the leaf sheep or the green thief, because it steals chloroplasts from algae and can perform photosynthesis in a daring bank robber-esque move known as kleptoplasty. You think of how, during extreme duress, certain species of sarcoglossan can detach their own heads, leave their bodies behind. As decoy? As sacrifice, like dumping out the non-essentials when rutted in mud on the Oregon Trail. The decapitated body can leave without its head for days, sometimes even months. If the green thief's young and healthy, the open wound on the back of its head heals despite its severing intentions, and within days the head begins to regenerate a new body, a new beating heart, new vital organs. After 3 weeks, a near perfect replica of its original body. But what to do with a discarded body that's absent a head? Perhaps you will disguise the headlessness with a mask, the way the Pokemon Cubone wears its dead mother's skull like a fetish for grief. The summer comes unbuttoned, and your mind blossoms away from your body like a pyrocumulonimbus cloud fueled by wildfires in the American West, fire-breathing, toxic, explosive. Your body is having nightmares, spiraling fire whirls, flashpoints, trees crowned in flame. Your body dreads scorched earth. But only in scorched earth can you begin to dream again of ephemerals, weeds, the slow march back of wood-boring beetles, of grasses and scrub, of birds and armadillos come in search of the beetles, of raccoons and foxes to curl into hollowed-out wood, of scrubby canopy to lay down needles and leaves for mulch, of taller and taller trees, of vines, of being nudged by the rough tongues of deer, of being drenched by a cold, hard rain.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That was so beautiful. I mean, just the form, the repetition of the summer and buttoning, and just I don't know, it's really hitting me. I just think some of the trauma work I'm doing right now and just working in the mental health field currently, just a lot of the dissociation relating to trauma and just how, people who live with trauma, we live in that kind of that living kind of in both the present and the past simultaneously. So you're, unsure of what season you're living
Absolutely.
in, like this, what summer is it? You don't even know. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. And then sort of coupled, I think, with sort of like the ongoing sort of collective traumas that
mhm,
we're all experiencing at this
yeah.
time.
And that I had to write it down. Your body dreams of dispersal, like that line, just wow. And then the image of that insect living without its head. And then there's a part of me that's like, would I want to live without my head or my body?
Right? I think that's an interesting question.
Because yeah, like a lot of us, experience trauma. We oftentimes live very much in our head and aren't very embodied, um, which becomes
Absolutely. I think that's why
problematic.
I'm
But
drawn to
yeah,
cephalopods.
beautiful piece. Thank you so much for sharing. Um,
Oh,
so
thank you.
what are you currently working on? What projects are coming up?
Well, I'm currently reading for the release of my first collection of essays. It's called unMOTHERed, unTONGUEd, and it's all lyric essays. And it's the winner of the Sue William Silverman Prize for Creative Nonfiction for AWP, and it'll be coming out from the University of Georgia Press. On September 15th, but it's now currently available for pre-order. And so these are essays where I'm thinking about questions of language. My Japanese mother was not a native English speaker. And then as she sort of declined with Alzheimer's, she lost her English and reverted entirely to Japanese. And there's always been these sort of thorninesses of language that I remember growing up. But it's also about place. I grew up in Laramie, Wyoming, which is a place of immense beauty, but a place where it was sometimes difficult to be other, biracial, queer, um, all of those kinds of different ways of being. And so the intersections of identity, language, and place. And it sort of also maps the return where I became legal guardian to my parents after they had, quote unquote, disowned me for about 3 years after the publication of my fourth collection, Dandarians, and they were declining, and so I had to come and become their legal guardian and sort of help them throughout that period of their lives. So that's kind of another thread, and the questions of trauma and abuse and survival intersected then too, I think, with the advent of the first Trump presidential term and COVID and all of those kinds of things sort of floating in the atmosphere. So the sort of personal and the ways it's sort of reflecting on or being reflected back by the larger cultural events that are happening during that time period.
Um, Sounds very, very intriguing. Sounds like a lot. Um, I'm just kind of personally reflecting just my experience teaching in Iowa. It's totally off topic. But um, I taught the Laramie Project in Storm Lake, Iowa,
Yeah.
small
Yeah.
town, and teaching that play at a high school was very interesting. And I don't know if you've ever read it, or they made a second play 10 years later, which I thought that was even more fascinating to get this macrocosm of what was going on in that community 10 years later, um,
I haven't seen
reflecting
the
on it.
second play. I'll
Mhm.
definitely check that out because
Yeah, because when
yeah.
we
Yeah.
decided we were going to teach it and ordered the book, and it was cheaper to order the book that had two plays in it. So
Mhm.
I don't know. The second play, I've never seen it, but the second
Mhm.
play, they actually talk to both murderers too. So, and they actually
Wow.
interview Judy Shepard, who they weren't able to talk to in the first one. So you get some really interesting. additional perspectives in there as well. Um,
Yeah.
and seeing how the community kind of backslides or kind of distances themselves from it later on, 10 years later.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Very interesting, yeah. Very interesting, very relevant, very poignant
Yeah.
topics.
Yeah. And I taught in small town South Dakota for
Mm.
24 years. So I'm kind of familiar too with the demographic.
Mhm.
It's probably not that dissimilar to uh small town Iowa.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here today. Um, one more question for you. So since this is Sunday Sweet Chats, and we know we've kind of touched on a little bit, I mean, there's a lot of salty powers in the world, a lot of traumatizing things going on
Yeah.
collectively, individually, a lot of very unsettling things. So what is it that kind of keeps you grounded or keeps you sweet, as much as possible in a world that is so salty?
Yeah. No, I think it's really it's a challenge and it's something I talk about with my friends all of the time. I think that I'm trying to be careful not to get ground up into the machinery of outrage, even as outrageous as the things that are happening around us are. But finding that balance between staying, responsibly informed, but also not kind of falling into the rabbit holes of sort of spectacle and outrage, and also thinking what are concrete sorts of things I can do versus sort of spinning my wheels with sort of and sort of chewing up emotional bandwidth. So, who can I call? What can I contribute? What is there something I can do to help somebody and try to channel into direct action versus sort of internalizing it and kind of letting it stew. So that's one of the things that I've been trying to do. But I also think that it now more than ever, it's important to affirm the things that we love and that are important to us. So our friends, our beloveds, our communities, to honor and spend time in places that are important to us, landscapes, the mountains or water, and to sort of seek solace in those places and sort of affirm our commitment to protecting them. And also to, I think, affirm our commitment to art and self-expression, which I think has been easy to take for granted for so long, but now I think feels more and more at risk. So to practice our art, to educate or work with communities in art, and to continue to practice our art seems radical and important as well, but also something sweet in the midst of scary and salty times.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I think it's kind of like what you started with there. I've read a couple of books recently, one called Laziness Does Not Exist, and the other one was called Rest is Resistance, I think is what it was called.
Yeah,
And both of those books kind of talked about kind of that emotional bandwidth that we get into with feeling like we're in charge of trying to change the world all the time. And um, there is kind of a grief that has to happen that we have to
yeah,
survive, to maintain our own sanity, to kind of realize we're not superhuman, that
absolutely.
there is only so much power and control that we have as individuals, and look at how much bandwidth we do have, how much control and power we do have, what is an issue or two, or the time or energy or money or whatever we have to contribute,
Mhm.
and how can we contribute to that and grieve for what we
Yeah,
can't,
yeah.
which is hard.
It's very hard, isn't it?
Mhm. Yeah. But thank you for that. And yeah, I think it's really important, like what you said, to spend time with those spaces, to carve out that time with the spaces, the people, the art, the things that bring you joy. Um, because there's so much non-joy that's so easy to get sucked into. So we can carve out that
Yeah.
space and give ourselves permission. to sit in
Yeah, I mean, I
joy.
don't know, because right, it seems like a kind of it seems like a kind of loss or allowing, malevolent forces to win if we relinquish our joy and the things that
Mhm.
are important or significant to us,
Mhm.
I think.
Yeah. And it is hard at the same time, knowing all the shit's going on in the world to kind of,
Right.
I'm gonna sit here and try and be happy for an hour. I mean,
It's
that's hard
really
too. Like,
it's really hard. Yeah.
but our sanity, our worth, our value, we all have that too,
Mhm.
and we need to try and protect that and preserve that too.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for being here, Lee. I've appreciated this conversation, your beautiful words and wisdom that you've contributed.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a delight getting to speak with you.
Thank you so much.
Mm.
It's been such a sweet treat to have you. Thanks for tuning in to Sunday Sweet Chats. Catch another episode next Sunday. Bye.
Bye.